I'm Ashton Addison from Block West Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show we have Coleman Maher, head of the ecosystem of Waves Labs. Coleman, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Ashton.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to dive into the Waves blockchain. I know it's been around forever. I've been following it since 5, 6, 7 years now, and there's a lot to catch up on as the ecosystem continues to grow. More companies are starting to build on Waves, which is super exciting. I know that Waves Labs has a great part in helping companies get involved into the ecosystem. So let's just start off the conversation by hearing a little bit about what you and your team are working on at Waves Labs and how that fits into the big picture, and then we'll dive into everything else.
So as you mentioned, Waves has been around for quite a while. It's launched in 2016. It's a layer 1 blockchain, for those who don't know. It's never gone down. It's had a solid ecosystem for 6 years now. But what Waves Labs is kind of the new growth engine for growing the Waves ecosystem of applications. So Waves Labs is the marketing, community, business development, partnerships arm of Waves. It's based in the US, so we're opening an office in Miami. And we're doing lots of hiring key executives from other top projects and traditional finance and Web2 to try to kind of hyper accelerate the growth of Waves. As you know, like all the layer ones have very big ecosystem funds now, and they're targeting the same pool of developers, the same pool of users. So in order to stay competitive, we started Waves Labs to be the growth engine of Waves.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And yeah, I feel like with all these giant funds that the layer one protocols have now, there's a big incentive to help companies start building on the ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit about why Waves is a great ecosystem for startups to start building their projects on top of?
Yeah, so I would tout the advantages of the Waves blockchain, and then I can speak a little bit about some of the incentives we're offering for application builders. So as I mentioned, Waves has been around since 2016. It's never gone down. It's faster than Ethereum. It's a proof of stake blockchain, but it's more decentralized than other proof of stake blockchains or other very fast blockchains like a Solana. So it has that good sweet spot between speed, practicality, and decentralization, which I think is very important. If you're building in Web3, you want to build something that users can actually use, that's inexpensive and performant, but you also want to keep that decentralization. And you don't want the blockchain to go down every other day. You don't want your application controlled by just a handful of node operators that are really the same person. So I would say Waves offers a good sweet spot between speed and decentralization and security. And as far as the incentives, we're about to announce the launch of our incubator. So we're looking to offer mentorship, funding, and all sorts of support for projects that are looking to build on the Waves blockchain. So that announcement should be coming out shortly. We feel that offering hands-on support and mentorship is just as important as committing like large amounts of funds. You've seen with other layer 1 blockchains, like they have these massive ecosystem funds, but a lot of those projects don't end up actually doing well or becoming anything. So I think it's important to have like a long-term game plan with long-term mentorship and people who really care about the long-term success of these projects.
Definitely, I completely agree. To help send them in the right direction. And one of the reasons why a lot of the Ethereum has built a great network effect is that there's a lot of developers that have already been working on there and have learned Solidity because it's close to JavaScript. How easy is it to start developing with Waves, and is there a lot of barriers to entry for developers to get started there?
So Waves is not an EVM blockchain, so it doesn't use Solidity. There's its own programming language called Ride. We think Ride is simpler, easier to learn, safer, more secure than Solidity. But it is a change. If you're used to building on with Solidity, then you're going to have to adjust to a new language. But the way we think about it is that, there's only a few thousand, maybe tens of thousands of, Web3 developers right now. Mm-hmm. There's millions of Web2 developers. So, the herd of Web3 developers hasn't really arrived yet. So having that, first mover advantage of, okay, all the current Web3 developers know Solidity, like, let's just keep focusing on EVM chains. I don't know that that's the, right long-term strategy. And you're starting to see like a lot more developers use Rust or develop on non-EVM chains. So yeah, I would say like if you're used to Solidity, then it's going to be a bit of an adjustment. But I think the future is multi-language. Anyways, it's not going to be completely dominated by EVM chains. We have developer tools. We have a developer portal. Like we have a thriving developer like community. We just hired a new head of developer relations who's been, building on Waves since the very beginning. So he's there to kind of help guide our community of developers in the right direction. And we see new people join the community every day. And, not only him, there's a lot of just community folks, people who don't work for Waves, but who have been developing with Ride on Waves, and who are just in that chat room, every day answering questions from new developers.
That's great to hear. And, I remember way back before, the sort of the craze of DeFi, like looking into the Waves DEX and the ecosystem. And I feel like since DeFi has exploded and all this value is being locked into these smart contracts and NFTs as well, there's a lot more projects that are starting to build with those use cases on the ecosystem. Is there a specific niche of different kinds of companies that are starting to work with Waves, whether it be DeFi projects or NFT or other industry use cases, or is it just all over the board?
I would say it's all over the board. We're a general application blockchain. I know some layer ones are trying to position themselves as the DeFi chain or the NFT chain, but we're here to serve all sorts of applications. I would point out that Waves was quite early to DeFi. USDN, our algorithmic stablecoin, preceded most of the other well-known algorithmic stablecoins by years. We've had significant TVL on our DeFi applications for quite a while now. And, our DEX, the most popular DEX on Waves is called Waves Exchange. You just go to waves.exchange. It's an order book DEX, which is, a little bit unusual, but, that a little bit ahead of its time. You're starting to see now DEXs switch from AMM style, like liquidity pool style, to order books because, like in the professional trading world, the non-Web3 trading world, order books are, generally easier to use, more orderly, as the name would imply. So, Waves was kind of ahead of its time in terms of DeFi. And it's also a little bit ahead of its time in terms of like metaverse applications. Waves Ducks has been around for quite a while. It's really popular. It's a play-to-earn metaverse game where you control these NFT duck characters. You can breed them, you can battle them, you can race them, and do there's many sorts of different games that you can play with these duck NFTs. So that's been around for quite a while as well, and has several 100,000 active users. So we've been making strides in both DeFi and metaverse. It hasn't always been the most well publicized, but that's kind of the role of Waves Labs to improve the community and marketing arm, and to highlight all the great things that we're doing at Waves, and of course to continue to grow the ecosystem.
That is exciting, and yeah, the GameFi space and just incorporating NFTs and blockchain into games, I feel like it's at a breaking point right now where some major games that explode and sort of incorporate that technology, it's going to be a huge industry that really hasn't come to fruition at all yet. We've just seen a few sort of big players like Axie and things blow up, and then they don't really have the retention. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that continues to develop. Now, say that there was a startup that was building a game or just any application. How far along do they need to be to start applying into Waves and sort of integrating into the ecosystem? Whether it's just an idea, a white paper, or an alpha, or a full launched product.
So we have different tracks for projects based on their level of development. So if you just have a white paper, you might join the incubator as an early stage project. We also have an accelerator track where you're a little bit further along and you just need to accelerate your development. And then we also have grants for teams that want to be more independent and they just need a little bit of funding, but they're already well on their way. So we have different buckets or tracks for different projects based on their stage of development. If they're just a technical founder with a white paper, or they're 10 people, they've already formed a company and they're looking to launch soon. So we have we're going to offer support for projects on any stage of their development, basically.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know. And you're talking about sort of incentivizing projects. There's all these other blockchains to choose from, and how do they decide that Waves is the best for them? And financial incentives help, but also I think even more important is the guidance and sort of the strategic investors, as you talked about, giving them other assets besides money to help guide them on the way. Now, on the financial side, do you guys just give them Waves tokens, or how does that work in applying for financial grants?
Yeah, so the grant structure is still being decided. We're going to announce that soon. The financial aspect's one aspect of it, and you mentioned mentorship and other things, but I think one of the key incentives for building on Waves is that there's actually quite a lot of TVL on our chain and quite a lot of users, but there's not a huge number of applications. So the way I like to think about it or pitch it is that there's billions of dollars of TVL on Waves DeFi, but that's on a handful of applications. Mm-hmm. And there's some basic, I wouldn't say primitives, but basic applications types that are missing on Waves. So if you build that missing piece, capital is going to flow to your application because there's already a lot of TVL on Waves, and there's already a lot of DeFi users. So you have this kind of captive audience. The same thing for Metaverse, NFT, GameFi. There's one really popular GameFi application on Waves, and games are an infinite design space. If you build another cool game, Waves Ducks players, I'm sure will check out your game. So I would say our community and the amount of TVL that's on our chain is a really strong selling point because there aren't frankly there aren't that many third-party developers on Waves yet. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the stuff has been built in-house. Once if you are a third-party developer building on Waves, you're going to have a pretty big head start, I think, because we're able to offer so much mentorship, so much support, and just the things I mentioned, the community and TVL aspect, things are going to users and capital are going to flow to your application just because there's not hundreds of apps for it to go to. The competition right now on Waves is a little bit low, and one day hopefully there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of flourishing apps. But right now I think is a really good time to start building on Waves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Just there's a few cogs missing, and if you have the right piece, then obviously it's going to fit perfectly into the Waves picture. Now, do you have any nice success stories or examples of companies that have joined with you guys recently, and you've helped them out, and now they're doing really well?
There's a few projects that have launched recently that are doing quite well, and the founder of these projects was formerly in-house at Waves and has kind of branched out and launched his own things. And he's actually going to be helping out with the incubator a lot because he has a lot of experience. So, one of those projects that he started is called Tsunami Finance. It's a derivatives DEX on Waves. It's attracting quite a bit of interest. So, that's it's a project by this guy named Vladimir. He's a great builder, and he's one of the, I think, strong assets we have in our developer community. Mm-hmm. We have people who have built multiple projects on Waves who are willing to help new developers on board. I'd like to give a shout out to him and talk about his project, Tsunami Finance.
Very cool. And what's What's your and Wave's sort of stance on the future is multi-chain and being able to transfer assets or applications sort of cross-platform?
Yeah, I do think the future is multi-chain. I think most people in crypto agree with that, but I think that view has been challenged quite a bit by recent events. Clearly bridge security is not where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. And there's an aspect to multi-chain, not only like do bridges get hacked all the time, but financial contagion between like that starts on one chain can spread to other chains due to multi-chain infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So I think this thesis is being tested, like battle tested, and I think we need to do a better job at building this multi-chain world. We can't just build a few bridges and not worry about the consequences of that. Mm-hmm. Like say a liquidity pool on Ethereum gets drained and it affects the price of the ERC20 version of that token. Like we have to be thoughtful of how that's going to affect that token on other chains. Mm-hmm. So I think actually Sasha, the Waves founder, has a lot of thoughts about this. He's always posting his thoughts on crypto and where things should be headed. So I would check out his tweets or his Telegram channel if you're interested in this debate. Like, is it going to be a multi-chain world? Like, how do we build the future of crypto correctly? He's always posting his thoughts on this, and he's been around for a long, long time and is one of the most thoughtful people in crypto.
Mm-hmm. Great to know, and I will link his Twitter in the description box below as well. Now, Coleman, if there's projects that are at different stages, sort of looking to find out more about the incubation acceleration platform, like what's the best way for them to learn more and to potentially apply?
Right now, they should just reach out to me. I can give you like my Telegram or Twitter. We're going to have the website up, within a matter of weeks, and the application form for the incubator as well. So, we're working on that. Would have loved to have it ready, but for right now, they can just contact me directly, and I'll refer them to our incubator lead.
Sounds great, Coleman. And I can leave those contacts and links in the description box below as well. Make it easy for the viewers. Thank you so much for coming on and just talking about the Waves Labs and Waves, and it's exciting to see the ecosystem grow out and expand even more. I would love to follow up in the near future, when talk about more great success cases and how Waves is expanding in the next quarter. So until then, have a great one.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I would love to do a follow-up when we have our first incubator cohort. I think that'd be really interesting. But thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thanks.